9.2.2 guided practice. We are going to continue working with finding the axis of symmetry and the vertex. So the first thing we're always going to look for is the axis of symmetry, and we do that by using the formula negative b divided by 2 times a. So we're always going to be using this formula. You can start out by just giving us the negative parentheses over 2 parentheses. And then we're filling out our a value is 1, our b value is 6, and our c value is 7. And we won't be using our c value in this formula. There's no c value. So we are just going to plug these in. Negative b, so I'm going to put my 6 over 2 times a. So everything in red is going to stay every time. In fact, if you really wanted to, you could go through, and off of every single one of these, you could put your formula before even starting. Hey.
Working in the zone?
Yeah, making
Okay,
video
I'll let you
notes.
get going, but I just wanted to say hi.
You're the greatest. That was Mr. T checking in on me. So like I said, you could go through and just create the formula negative b over 2 times a for every single one of these before you even do any work. This is never changing. This is just the formula, even though I wrote the wrong thing. Negative b over 2a. So as I'm talking, I might not be paying attention to what I'm writing. Negative b over 2a. And then we fill in the parentheses depending on what we have. So 18 would go here, 3 would go down here. I'm not going to do all of these, but I went through and just filled out. So once we fill out our formula with our information, we evaluate. So this means when I put this together, I get negative 6, and when I put this together, I get a positive 2. So negative 6 over 2 makes a negative 3. So our axis of symmetry, our AOS, is x equals negative 3. And now we're going to use that to go back and find out what our y would be. So we're going to go in and we are going to replace our x value with a negative 3. And then we're going to evaluate, or we're going to solve to see what happens. So negative 3 to the second power is going to make a positive 9. 6 times negative 3 is going to make a negative 18. And negative 7 isn't being changed, so we're just going to write plus 7 here. Our next step is to combine all of our terms here. So we have 9 minus 18 plus 7. If you punch that in a calculator, you're going to end up with a negative 2. So y equals negative 2. And then we're going to write our answer. Our vertex is a point, so it's an xy point. Our vertex is the x coordinate, negative 3, and the y coordinate, negative 2. And what that means is when we plugged in a negative 3 for x and solved it, we got out a negative 2. So when I plug in a negative 3, I get out a negative 2 for that function. Let's try it again here on number 2. So I'm going to say negative b. My b value is 4 because I have a, b, and c. So a is over 2 times a, which is 1. That's going to make a negative 4 over 2. And then that gives us a negative 2. So our axis of symmetry, x equals negative 2. To find our vertex, we're going to take that same point and plug it in. So I'm going to rewrite my equation with just parentheses. And then I'm going to replace x. I'm going to put a negative 2 in there. And then I'm evaluating. So I have negative 2 to the second power is a positive 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And this 1 isn't changing, so I'm just going to bring it down plus 1. And then we can add all of these together or combine them together. And 4 minus 8 is negative 4, plus 1 is negative 3. So for this one, our vertex, when x was a negative 2, y is a negative 3. Let's jump down to some of these bigger ones. And it's the same process. So we're still taking our a, b, and c. And we are going to put our b up here, negative b, over 2 times a. And now our a here is a negative 2. So my a is a negative 2. My b is a negative 16. And I'm going to evaluate. I'm going to work this stuff out now. So we're looking at negative 16, or the opposite of negative 16 is positive 16, over 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4. And then this reduces 16 divided by negative 4 is negative 4. So my axis of symmetry for this one, x equals negative 4. And now that we know what x is, we're going to go in and find out what would happen to make our y, what our y would end up being. So y equals negative 2 minus 16 minus 35. And I'm replacing my negative 2, or I'm sorry, my x with a negative 4. So I did that in red. And now we're going to evaluate. We've got to follow our order of operations. So I'm going to square this number first and write my answer there. So negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. I could also multiply these two together, negative 16 times negative 4, which is going to make a positive 64. In purple here, negative 35 isn't changing, so I'm going to just bring down my negative 35. And then I left this negative 2 out. I haven't worked that out yet, so I'm going to have to write that here. Negative 2. I'm going to have to multiply those together. So let's do that. I'm going to multiply these together, and that makes negative 32. And I'm going to combine these, 64 minus 35. So I'm going to do 64 minus 35, and I'm going to find that that makes 29, a positive 29. And then I can put those together. Negative 32 plus 29, and that makes negative 3. So my vertex, when x was a negative 4, y turned out to be a negative 3. Let's show you a couple more examples here. So again, a, b, and c. A is negative 1, b is negative 6, and c is negative 12. So negative b, so I'm putting a negative 6 there over 2 times a. The opposite of negative 6 is positive 6, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And then these reduce to make negative 3. So my axis of symmetry, x equals negative 3. And then we're going to take that and plug it back in. So I'm going to replace y equals negative x squared minus 6 times x minus 12. And I'm replacing all of that with a negative 3. So y equals, this negative isn't changing yet. Negative 3 squared means negative 3 times negative 3, which gives me a positive 9. I can work these out. Negative 6 times negative 3 is positive 18. And then 12 back here, forever alone, had nothing to do, so I'm just going to rewrite it. Now I'm going to work out negative times 9, which makes negative 9. And I'm going to do 18 minus 12, which gives me positive 6. And then a negative 9 plus 6 is a negative 3. So for this one, when x was a negative 3, y is also a negative 3. And that's my vertex. Let's show you one more. This one's got kind of big numbers. This will be fun. So I've got 18 on top, and 3 on the bottom. Negative 18 over 6, which reduces to negative 3. So my axis of symmetry, x equals negative 3. I'm going to go in and plug in negative 3 for x. Everywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a negative 3. So negative 3 here, a negative 3 here, and then I'm following my order of operations. This 3 can't multiply yet, so it has to wait outside. It can't play yet. This negative 3 squared has to happen first. And negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. I'm going to put 18 times negative 3 together. That's going to give us a negative, and negative 3 times 18 makes 54. And then I'm adding 23 to that. All right, I'm going to multiply these together. 3 times 9 is 27. And then negative 54 plus 23, I'm going to put those together. And that's going to make negative 31. And now when I combine 27 minus 31, I'm going to get negative 4. So for this one, my vertex, when I plug in a negative 3, I get out a negative 4. When my x was negative 3, my y ended up being negative 4.